Hello, my name is Michael, and about 9 months ago, I started working on this thing called a Mindapp. And in this video, I just wanted to explain what it is right now, what the vision for it is for the future, and what my motivations were for building it. It the answers to all these questions are complex, but I'll start. I'll try to do it with a high level overview, and then I might ramble on into the details. But I'll start off with what it is right now. So, Mindapp, as it is right now, is a sort of like a cross between Reddit and Hacker News, but also not needing the social media aspect. So, I guess you could also throw in Obsidian, although I've never used it, but from what I've heard, I feel like it might be sort of like Obsidian. It's also Mindapp is also open source. I open sourced it a couple days ago, just because it was in just closed source because I was away for a while doing beekeeping stuff. But anyways, so Mindapp it allows you to organize your thoughts and retrieve them pretty efficiently, I would say. I'm on the internet a good amount of my day, I would say. And so I created a tool to organize my links as well as just plain text. And yeah, so the way it works is you could either just go on mindapp.cc, and that is the easiest way to see some of my notes. And you could also download the source code and run it locally, and that also gives you more features like being able to locally save the thoughts that you put in right now. I would say what sets it apart from other note-taking apps is, or most note-taking apps, I'm sure there's some others that do this feature. It's where you can categorize your notes or your thoughts by set theory. So, for example, if you had a note on sushi, that could go under the Japan folder or the culinary arts folder. So, which one do you pick? Well, using set theory, you could just label sushi as being in the Japan set and the culinary arts set. And so when you search for thoughts using the culinary arts or Japan tags, thoughts tagged with sushi will show up in both of those queries. And this is a pretty powerful tool, in my opinion, because you're no longer confined by the hierarchical structure of folders. Folders were a good first step, but the problem with that is, with folders, is that you can't have, for example, a sushi folder under two parents. So set theory solves that problem. So Mindapp is an open source personal knowledge application, personal knowledge management application, but also it allows you to put your notes in a communal space. So when you first start using Mindapp locally, all of your notes will be stored in your personal space, and this is a space on your computer. It never touches the internet, unless you modify the source code if you want. I'm sure that there will be a plugins feature eventually, but by default, when you run the source code locally and you run Mindapp locally, it's basically just a local personal notes repository, and it gives you all the features that that the communal space has, it's just local, so no one else can see it except you and whoever has your computer, I guess. So you have your personal space and a communal space, and you can choose to put your notes in either one of those spaces or both of them. When you put a thought, I call these notes thoughts because I really just have things in my head that I want to jot down, or I see things on the computer that I want to save. I just count notes as thoughts at this point. When you share, or when you put a thought in a communal space, all of the people who have access to that communal space can view it. So if you go on mindapp.cc, you can see you can see all of the notes that I've put in the Mindapp communal space. Of course, I have some personal notes that I don't put on the internet, and so those notes stay in my personal space on my local disk on my computer. But most of my notes are pretty not sensitive, so I'm fine sharing them with the internet. And if you go on mindapp.cc right now, you can see a bunch of different tags, and if you click on most of them, they'll have a lineage of how that tag fits into the whole set theory. So I mean, I could just speak off the top of my head. So for example, if you look up Japanese music, when you click on that tag, you will see Japanese music and all of its subgenres, and above Japanese music it has a music parent tag, and that music tag has the music industry parent tag, and so the music industry is a grandparent tag of the Japanese music tag, but also the Japanese music tag has I'm pretty sure it has the parent tag of the Japanese music tag is Japan, or Japanese cultural exports. And so using set theory and Mindapp, which implements set theory, I'm able to put my thoughts about Japanese music, or my notes on Japanese music, under both music industry, or a music industry folder, so to speak, and also the Japan folder, because Japanese cultural exports is a child of the Japan tag. If you go on mindapp.cc, you can get a better, you can see a visualization of it. So I recommend you do that. So another thing Mindapp does is that I haven't seen in other note-taking or most other social medias is it uses a sort of crypto wallet for the accounts. Now, crypto is tangential to Mindapp. It is not necessary for it to function, but I thought that crypto would be a good use case for Mindapp. And so I made it such that when you create an account on Mindapp, that account works on mindapp.cc, but if someone takes my source code, they can spin up their own communal space. So in addition to the Mindapp communal space, there would be XYZ communal space, and that would be running the same source code, but under someone else's cloud computer or whatever. And from there, you can have your Mindapp account plug into both the Mindapp communal space and the XYZ communal space. And the reason why I had this be a feature is one thing I noticed was that there would be clones of Twitter. So, for example, there's Gab, there's Parler, there's Truth Social, and honestly, I feel like Twitter is sort of, I'm not sure which way it goes now, but I feel like Twitter is sort of an evolution of Reddit, in that they're all just replies, and replies they can have their own parent, or they can have their own child replies, and posts can have, a parent that they're replying to, and Twitter just has a different UI for Reddit's sort of experience. Although in Reddit you can't reply with a video or a GIF, for example. But I felt that these internet companies just kept reinventing the wheel or solving the same problem twice. And that problem, the technical problem, was just having a UI for social media where you can respond to other people's posts, you can make posts on your own. And so going through that list of all those Twitter clones, I realized that this is a problem that is being solved over and over again. And so why not just have an open source alternative, I guess you could say, where you could spin up your own instance of Twitter or Reddit or whatever. Because at the end of the day, it's all just information. The main difference, I would say, is the way the communities are moderated, and also the type of users that these different communities attract. So on mindapp.cc, it is right now. It is mostly just me posting, and so it's under my moderation. Not that there haven't been any moderation incidents yet, but it goes by my rules because it's running on my cloud computer, which is just using fly.io. But and also the database is using TersoDB, which is a fork of SQLite. So the stack is very simple, and if you don't like the sort of vibe that I have on mindapp.cc, or if you just want a private space, you can spin up your own instance of Mindapp and start using that. And the cool thing is that, like, let's say there is a team for a company or a startup. They can spin up their own instance of Mindapp and have their own private communal space. And if I'm a member of that team, they can grant me access. And so I can plug into both that team's communal space and any other instance of Mindapp that I have access to. And this is different from, say, Discord or Slack, or basically any social media, in that when you create a new sort of community, that community owns the entire stack from the servers if they want. I'm pretty sure you can run Mindapp on your own servers if you want. It's just easier right now if you do it on the cloud. But that community owns its entire stack, from the hardware to the software to the moderation. So you can, for example, on Facebook groups, you can have your group, but you're still being moderated by whoever's above you, and that would be the executives at Facebook. And same with subreddits on Reddit. I've noticed that subreddits in the past some of them have branched out into their own sort of vibe, and that works until it doesn't. And so Reddit will ban certain subreddits for whatever reason, And one thing I noticed was that these different social media giants, Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, to a much lesser extent Hacker News, they all have developed their own sort of vibe. And that's really interesting to me. I don't really, I don't actually don't use social media, except for I guess Mindapp. It's a cross between social media and I would say note taking. So yeah, I feel like, to go on a tangent, the reason why I deleted all of my social media except for YouTube is I just couldn't. I I came to the conclusion that it was not good for my brain. That's the short answer. Um, except for YouTube, because YouTube is the search on YouTube is still decent. On these other feed-based social medias, the feed shows you what it wants to show you, so there's less control over what you see. And I gotta say, like, some of those feeds are very engaging, very addictive, and that just was not the direction I wanted to go in. So that is not the main motivator of why I built Mindapp. I sort of gave you the vision for like Mindapp, where you have different communal spaces that one account can plug into, because the account is just a crypto wallet. I'll talk about how crypto plays in later, but let's see, social media. I was going to say something, but okay, I'll just talk about the crypto now. So yeah, there is a feature that is not enabled yet that basically backs the up and down votes with a token. And it's not, the token is not an investment. It simply represents a scarce digital asset that is used to back your voting or your governance in the communal space. So Mindapp is token agnostic, but right now I have in the works a token on a gas-less or a transaction fee-less blockchain, and so there's I think 10 trillion of these tokens. There's 0 decimal points, so it's just one token. One token cannot be broken up into smaller parts, but there's 10 trillion of them. And so the idea is that when you upvote or downvote a post, the upvote is backed by a token being sent to the author of the post you're upvoting. And if you downvote a post, that downvote, the token that backs that downvote gets sent to the owner of the communal space. And so in the case of mindapp.cc, I'm the owner of the space. So if you downvote a post, that downvote will cost a token, or not. I'll get into the or not later. But when you do a vote up or down, it can be backed by a token, and that token makes that vote a lot stronger than a vote that is not backed by anything. So if you go on any social media, the engagement, the means for engagement, like likes or reactions, or downvotes, upvotes, most of them are they don't cost anything to produce. So it's really easy for bots to take advantage of the system. that being said, I do think it's important to allow people who don't have a token to still have a voice. So on Mindapp, well, right now all of the up and down votes are backed by nothing. But eventually, I mean, I did have this turned on at one point. Well, eventually there would be a hybrid sort of approach where there would be strong votes and weak votes. So the strong votes are the votes that are backed by a token, and the token that I made is it's called a Vibe, VIBE. It's on the Vite blockchain. That's spelled VITE. It's a transaction feeless, fast and feeless blockchain. And I think that's really important for the user experience, that it is fast and feeless, because any non-zero transaction fee is going to be another column of accounting that you have to do, and so it being feeless just makes accounting way easier, among other things. Like, it's just, I'd say having fees is a step back from, say, cash, because if you give someone $1, there's no transaction fee other than, putting your arm out, and that's going to cost some calories, I guess, or a fraction of a calorie. But so Mindapp will have strong votes and weak votes, and from there, because the source code for Mindapp is open source, people can change how the algorithm works. So right now there is no algorithm other than the posts being chronological, and in the future the feed would be based on your preferences. So you can, for example, you would be able to change who can, your feed would prioritize posts according to your preferences. So you can say, I want to see posts that have been strongly upvoted by this criteria, like by this group of users, or maybe just one user. Maybe there's just one user who you admire, and you want to see what they're interested in and what they're upvoting. And so you could, for example, say, I want a feed that shows me what these other users like. And then from there, because there is a strong and a weak vote, that gives you more granularity over what kind of posts you see. You could just have, for example, if you were a new user and you just went on the home page, the front page of Mindapp, it would just show you the most upvoted posts, and there could be a ratio of or a multiplier for strong votes. So, for example, the multiplier for a strong vote could be 100 times greater than a weak vote, and that could just be an interesting problem to solve, and in my opinion be a way to deter bots. So I'm also looking for a way to distribute this token. Like I said, there's 10 trillion of them. It's not an investment, so I'm just looking for a way to spread it out to other Mindapp users, and have those users start upvoting and downvoting, hopefully mostly just upvote posts, and get the velocity of moving that token around up to speed. I think that would be really interesting. So another motivation for building Mindapp and having this token that is used for backing votes is I liked Reddit for a time, and I noticed that the sort of vibe of the whole community, the whole Reddit internet, or the whole Reddit website, it changed, and so I don't really use Reddit now. I don't go on it. I don't doom scroll. I'll go on it if it shows up on a search result, but that's about it. And interestingly, a lot of those Reddit posts that show up in the search results are like really old, like from like 10 years ago when it was really popular, or when the internet was different. So I wanted to create a sort of Reddit like experience, but with the ability for users to migrate their karma to other platforms in the case or in the event that Reddit goes downhill. And so that's why I think it's important to have a token backing these votes, because if the votes are just backed by an entry in a SQLite database, you can't really migrate that over to a different platform. But because some votes, the strong votes, will be backed by a token, when you receive those tokens, when you have a post that's upvoted, that token goes straight to your wallet, your crypto wallet. And from there, that crypto wallet is using the same seed as your Mindapp public ID or persona ID. And so if my instance of Mindapp goes downhill, you can take your profile to a different instance of Mindapp that is being that has a better community, or has a community that you just like better than the one I've fostered. And I think that's a really powerful and really interesting concept to think about, because I really think that the internet is sort of like a second planet where you have the people, but the properties of the goods, like the assets on this internet, this cyberspace planet, are like, they're different. So I think that these large social media websites, they're like their own countries that you're not allowed to leave. So for example, when you build up your digital profile on Reddit or Instagram, you build up these followers, or you build up karma, but there's no way for you to move that sort of clout to another platform should those platforms go downhill. I think these large social media websites were a good first step in seeing what was possible with the internet, but with the advent of crypto, that allows you to have a permissionless identity, and so that enables you to have the same identity that allows you to have the same identity for different services on the web. And I think that's a really, really powerful thing. And we've already seen that in some Web3 or DeFi protocols, where you sign in with the same wallet on different protocols, and some of those protocols might go to zero, some go to the moon. So I think crypto really introduced some interesting primitives to the web. Digital scarcity and permissionless identity are two of the big ones that come to mind. In regards to the digital scarcity of the token that I use on, or will use on Mindapp, there's 10 trillion of them, and only 10 million have been minted so far. I think I'm still trying to figure out what the best way to distribute and to mint more tokens is. I'm trying to figure out what the best way to do that is. So in a sense, I am sort of like the Fed, like this guy. Just in theory, I could print a significant amount of token or money or currency. I wouldn't say this token that I have is money, but right now there's only 10 million Vibe. Vibe is the token, with a max supply of 10 trillion, and the only time it's minted is when I do it with my hardware wallet, which I don't know when that's ever going to happen, because when you have 10 million, I'd say it doesn't really matter what the supply of tokens is less important than the velocity of the tokens. So it could be 10 million. As long as you have the tokens going around to other people, there is vitality in that tokens in that token. So yeah, that's Mindapp. I explained set theory. I explained that it's open source and you can spin up your own instance of Mindapp. I explained the crypto aspect. Yeah, and so at this point, I'm just going to keep working on new features. Right now, it only shows you the posts in chronological order, but I think the next thing for me to do, there's two main things. One is I have to figure out, I might have to rework the way users sign in, just because it might be able to, it can be improved, I feel. But also, that might just be slightly secondary to this other feature where you can see the lists of posts that you haven't replied to. So when you go to the home page, you'll see like your sort of inbox, and below that is the feed. And so you can reply to all the posts in your inbox and then go on to the feed below that. So that's another thing. It's sort of like, it's just another messaging communication sort of method, but Mindapp isn't necessarily for communications. It's really just for organizing information. And so communication is a form of information. I'd say if you wanted a private chat, there are better applications for it, although you could just spin up your own instance of Mindapp and only have you and someone else in it, so only you and that other person are aggregating information. But I would say having a community is having a community that aggregates information is really is really what I intend Mindapp to be. So I don't really have a bias in, I mean, I guess I do like freedom, but I'm all for organizing all types of information, whether it's good news, bad news, fake news, real news. As long as it's properly labeled, then I don't see a problem with it. So if you post some misinformation, just label it as misinformation, and that way, when other people see it, they can, come to their own conclusions. They can see that some thought has been labeled as misinformation, and that I think is better than deleting information, because when you delete information, you don't give other people a chance who haven't seen it, the chance to come to their own conclusions. I would much rather have information, it's labeled real or fake, and I can just come to my own conclusions about that. And I think that's probably a much better way of of communication, rather than having someone with authority turn off, some outlet of information that authority doesn't want people to see. So yeah, I've talked enough. 35 minutes. Yeah, this was just a rough overview of what it is, of what Mindapp is, what my motivations are, why I made it, what the vision is for this. So it is in active development. I've replaced my note-taking system with it. That's another tangent I can go into now. So initially I started taking notes on iOS Notes, and mouth is getting dry. So, like most people, I just started taking notes on whatever came with my devices. And so that was iOS Notes. And that worked for several years. I'd say after accumulating notes for 6 years, it depends how many notes you take, but for me, after 6 years, the search feature, I noticed, got really slow. And it got so slow to the point that it was really annoying to retrieve notes that I had taken. And so what I did from there was, I believe in 2021, it's probably earlier than that. Or maybe it was 2021, or maybe 2020. Around those years, I exported all of my Apple Notes into Markdown. And for, about 3 years or so, I would just write all my notes in Markdown. If I had to jot something down, I would just save it on my phone, either through the Notes app or on a browser, and just open it up later on my desktop and move that note to Markdown. And because Markdown is just, it's almost like plain text, and the Markdown files were just sorted by folders, it became, I could just open it up in VS Code. And that was a lot faster for retrieving notes than the Apple Notes app, because if you've ever tried VS Code or any sort of text editor for developers, searching the whole folder for a string of text is pretty quick. So, and so that worked for a couple years, maybe 3. And then I mentioned this previously, but the problem with just having folders is that you can't have one folder be the child of multiple parents. Maybe you can with aliases, but it just wouldn't really work out, I don't think, in VS Code or most text editors. But that aside, there were also some formatting things I wish I could do, but in Markdown it's very very bland. It's almost, I would just use dashes and tabs to indent and like group blocks of thoughts under say the file for a certain category. And so with Mindapp, it's a lot more visually, it's easier on the eyes. You still have to run it locally if you want the full experience, but you could also just go on the web on mindapp.cc and use it from there. And also for Mindapp, mindapp.cc is just the client. So if you want to spin up your own communal space, you can use mindapp.cc to plug into different spaces. The way it works is you have personas, and each one of those personas has the different spaces that it has added. So you can have one persona for one purpose and another persona for like work, and then that work persona could just be could just view the work communal space. So yeah, I could go on for a while about Mindapp, but yeah. So the main problem, the two main problems with using Markdown were just formatting in the not to say that Markdown is bad at formatting. It's just formatting text in raw Markdown did not look good. Parsed Markdown looks good, but a lot of times if the text that I was pasting over had breaks in the line breaks, then that would mean line breaks in the Markdown, in the raw Markdown, and that would just not look good, because, like I said, I would just use tabs and dashes and new lines to delineate between different thoughts. And I would say the tipping point for, I realized that that was an issue, that the formatting and also the tag, the set theory sort of issue, like folders don't have set theory. Those two things were things that I became aware of, but only after using Markdown for my notes for 3 or so years. It wasn't until I met some people at some AI events, and one of them was brainstorming an idea for, like, how could there be a user interface where people could input high quality data and low quality data. You know, it has to be labeled low quality and high quality. And how could we have a user interface where you could do that to train an AI model? And the first thing I thought was, that sounds easy, except for the part where is the incentive for people to input data and label it. And that's when that got the ball rolling in my head, because I had already had my note-taking system of Markdown files and folders, and I knew its limitations, and so I thought, why not just sort of create. So there was that, and then there was also the issues that I saw in traditional social media, and I thought, why don't we combine, the good parts of Markdown and social media and crypto and the openness of, like, AI, I guess you could say, and just sort of create this thing for communities to aggregate information, or just yourself, if you just want to use it for personal note-taking, that's fine too. Well, from there, once you have a large amount of labeled thoughts, then that would be really powerful for AI. And in addition to that, you have the votes that you would get in communal spaces, and so from there you could have a communal space and have an AI agent that sort of represents the vibe of that space. And I think that's, now we're talking really far into the future, but it's something that's obviously you could do right now with Reddit and other social medias. You can ask different models to summarize the sort of vibe of different social medias. But yeah, I just think we're living in a really interesting time for technology, and I think that's really, really cool. So yeah, mindapp.cc, that's what I'm working on. If you want the source code, it's under my GitHub, which is Mileung, MILEUNG / Mindapp, and I'll probably put a link somewhere on this video or in the description. I don't know. But thank you for listening. If you have any questions, comments, or whatever, I'll be sure to like put my contact somewhere, or you could just leave a comment. I'm at the point where I could start looking for user feedback. Once I added the tag map, which is the visual tool that shows all the different tags in the hierarchy of how they fit in set theory, that I'd say that was a pretty big milestone. In addition to having everything else, it's just look at the commits. The work is there, the proof of work is there on GitHub. So yeah, I'm looking for users. I'm looking for user feedback, and yeah, I think this is a really interesting thing that I'm working on. So thanks for watching or listening.